Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have some new Trinity Stamps products that I could not wait to share. And so we're going to be inking up a Slimline card. Let's get started. All right, that stamp set that I showed you is called You Rock. And what I'm using here is the stitch dies. This is from the Slimline series. I'm just going to line this up onto some white cardstock and then tack that down with a little bit of purple tape. I want to cut this out and have it have a nice little border on the inside, as you can see. And I love the stitching. I just love all the elements to this. And I'm going to keep all those squares in the middle because I plan to do something with those as well. But I love this stamp set. Reminds me of, growing up. I'm obviously an 80s kid, so this one really spoke to me. What I'm doing here is I just have some scraps of cardstock, as you can see, I had it all laid out up there, and I'm just trimming these down. They're about a 1/4 inch. It doesn't matter how long they are because I just plan to do some paper piecing with these. So I'm going to do that with this turquoise. I'm going to do it with the red, and I'm also doing it that lime green. These are some old Stampin' Up! Colors. I don't know what they're called anymore, and I don't even know if they make them anymore. But you know what? Hey, we're using what we have, which is always good. Makes you feel good. At least makes me feel good. And so I'm pretty happy about that. And even digging in, I didn't get that many cut down. Honestly, I still have tons of scraps. So here's what I'm doing with each of those squares. I'm going to take some 1/8 inch score tape and I'm just going to line that all around the outside edge and then put a little bit in the center. I'm going to peel off that release paper. And then with each of those scraps, I'm just going to go back and forth with the color and I'm going to line that up at a diagonal. So just taking it like that, and then I'm going to do in the same order. So I'll go red, lime, and then turquoise. And then I will repeat that process all the way down to the very, very bottom. And I'm going to do that on all 3 of those. And then by doing this, I'll have that square like that, but then I'm just going to run it into my guillotine trimmer and then trim off all of the excess chunks so that way we've got some good squares going. I have some measurements up on the screen for you concerning Slimline cards. They typically measure when they're closed 8.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So I've cut down a piece 7 inches by 8.5 inches and I scored that at 3.5 inches. Now I have the score buddy, so I had to flip my paper upside down in order to get that score going. But if you have the bigger Scor-Pal, I don't know, it's called the Scor-Pal, then you're good to go. You can do it either way. I'm going to put the You Rock stamp inside of my Misty, and I'm going to stamp this down onto some Express It cardstock using Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to Copic color these. So I'm going to stamp it a couple times because these are brand new stamps. So typically when you're doing that, you have to usually stamp it a couple times or maybe even condition your stamp just a little bit. This is where a Misty or some sort of stamp positioner comes in super handy. My coloring is going to be super, super simple. I am starting off with the color C6, and typically when I color, I like to start with my lightest and then go to my darkest, but I'm actually starting with my mid-tone here. Honestly, don't know why I did that. I think it's because when I got started, I didn't really have a plan in mind. So I started with my C6, and then I'm going to come in with my C8, so I will come in with my darker shade, and then just getting that down fairly happy. I do go outside the lines a little bit in there, but I will fix that. And then I'm going to blend that out with my C6 again. And then I'm going to come in with a C4 and just sort of blend the center a little bit. And it ends up working fine. It ends up not being a really big deal that I didn't start with my lightest and then go to my darkest. I'm not doing any shading or shadowing on these colors. I'm just bringing in some red, green, and turquoise to match the colors of the cardstock that I had. But this here, I'm bringing in that C4 just to kind of add a little bit of shading around the outside there, and then I'll bring in my I think this is my C3. And then to color the actual You Rock, which is supposed to look like, the tape from a tape itself, like the actual film or whatever, I'm coloring with the C6, and those are fairly thin lines, so I am definitely trying to take my Copic and go more straight up and down rather than coloring more with the side of my Copic. If you have a bullet nib, that would work probably really, really well. So if you have, like, for example, the Arteza Everblend markers, your bullet nib would work really well in this. But you can definitely do it with a brush nib. You just have to be a little bit more careful, not use a whole lot of pressure. and I love how that's turning out. I do decide to bring in my Sakura Jelly Roll pen. This is the number 8 pen. And I'm going to add a little bit of highlighting to this because the film itself would usually be really, really shiny, as well as the tape itself. I don't know if, I mean, some of you might be pretty young and don't remember tapes at all, but some of you probably do, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And where I'm adding those highlights, there's really no rhyme or reason. I'm just adding it where I want to add it. I don't have like a real plan. I just am adding it just to add some shine to it. And then I'm going to fussy cut those out. So I was kind of in create mode, didn't pay attention to the fact that I am very much zoomed in here, but all I'm doing is just putting down some foam tape all around the edges of that yellow cutout, and then I'm gluing down the center pieces, you know, the squares right into the center. I'm going to use a little bit of glue on the parts that would overlap the white on my U-Rock and as well as my tape deck. So I'm just going to put that on the outside edges of there. I could have put some foam tape on the center, but honestly, the center pieces were popped up enough that it wasn't necessary to add any foam tape there, but you certainly could. Now I'm going to grab out the Springtime Rainbow Confetti Mix. This stuff is absolutely beautiful. This is, of course, by Trinity, and I'm just going to slap a few of those down. I love that there's just a variation in color. There's even some white ones in there, some silver, and there's other colors to go along with it, but it just matched so perfectly with what I had going on here that I had to put them down. And then it adds this beautiful cohesion of that Slimline card, which I'm really enjoying making, so I'm definitely going to be making a lot more of these. All right, so we'll move on to the inside here in a second, but I want to show you closer up how those Springtime Rainbow Confetti, how that really looks. It's just beautiful. For the inside, I did just take some scrap of white cardstock, and I'm just slapping down some 1/8 inch score tape onto that. I'm going to peel off the release paper, and I'm basically just going to take the rest of the scraps that I do have, and I'm going to line those up all the way down to the bottom of where I actually have the tape. So I'll just keep going all the way down using that same concept of like red, lime, turquoise, and then I'm going to trim that down, and then I'll trim it down even more, and then I'm going to put some on the bottom and then some on the top as well. I just thought it was a little something. It didn't go overboard, but it was fun. And then I'm going to take the music notes that are in the stamp set. I'm going to stamp those out using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And it's been a hot minute since I've played a musical instrument, but I definitely listen to music, so I really like this stamp set. All right, now we're going to get crazy, and we're going to make our own envelope using the brand new, from their Slimline series, the Envelope Builder die. And this thing is chocked full of dies. It is incredible. So not only will you be able to make your own envelope, but it also has the dies that say friend and hello, and it also has the shadows that go with them. So you can make cards just using friend and hello. And then also, you see that one in the center of that giant rectangle? That is a scalloped stitched border that would fit perfectly on the outside of a Slimline card. So you're getting all kinds of elements, not just the dies to make the Slimline envelope, but also bits to make cards for your Slimline as well. So I just think that's fantastic. And then I'm going to show you how this works. So that measures, that big rectangle is going to measure 4 inches by 9 inches. So even if you have like a smaller die cutting machine, you can still use it. You're just going to need to run it through and then kind of transition your paper down a little bit to cut it. But it will fit, almost all the pieces will fit on into an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. You're just going to need to cut out one more small piece for a side flap. But let me show you. I just recently actually got the Gemini for my birthday. My husband is a stud, and he bought that for me because he knew that my die cutting machine was kind of not on the fritz, but I was going to have to start buying replacement pieces. So he was like, well, instead of that, let's just get you the Gemini. And I am not mad about that. Honestly, I love it. And so he got me the big one. So it's great because it'll fit 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper through it. And then I don't have to manually crank it because I've had shoulder issues. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries and then tore it again. So, but we're not going there. Anyway, I love this machine. And so here I am just going to cut out that one last flap just with another scrap of cardstock. And then we're scoring along all the score lines because the dies will also push the score lines in there, so you can just score that with your bone folder. And then I'm going to start taking a look at how I want to assemble these. My suggestion is to assemble these obviously with a very strong adhesive. I'm going to use liquid glue. You could use like a score tape. Just make sure that whatever you're using is a strong adhesive, because you don't want your envelope falling apart in the mail, that's for sure. So this is why I chose liquid glue. And I'm just sticking that down. I'm sticking down the first side flap, and then I'm going to stick down the second side flap to go with it. And we'll put that down on the other side. And then we're going to put down, I believe it's the bottom flap. It might be the top flap. I think we're going to put the top flap in there. And then we'll just put some glue on the edge of that. And I'm just testing every time I do, a piece before I actually stick it down. Just trying to make sure that everything's going to adhere fine. And it's starting to come together. All right, so now we're going to put the bottom flap on as well. So we'll just pop that down, again with the liquid glue. And then we'll close our elements and kind of take a look, and look at that. It's already an envelope. All right, so we'll glue down the center flap. And of course, make sure that where you put your glue, it isn't going to overlap and actually close the envelope, like seal it together on the inside somehow. So obviously I'm not going to tack down the top part yet. That won't happen till the card goes in the mail. But I'm going to show you how the card will fit in there super nicely. And I love it, because now you can custom make all your envelopes if you want to. And it's economical, honestly, simply because when I went to buy envelopes, they're about $1 a piece. And so now I can make my own. All right, and this is what the card looks like. I love how that turned out, and I love that I now have a matching envelope to go with it. I'm going to have a link to all the products I used, along with the new products that Trinity is carrying for this new release. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Thanks for stopping by.